George Washington's a role model for men today. He wrote this a long time ago to warn so that you can have freedom. What Washington started, we must continue as men. It's up to us to preserve freedom. So there's some good thoughts to think about. Let's go to the Heritage article and pull this. So heritage.org wrote these 7 charts show why the Congress must get spending under control immediately. This was written July 7th, 2022. We even have more inflation now from the debt and spending. So David Ditch wrote this. Now here's what he says. Millions of American families are reeling from the worst wave of inflation in more than 4 decades. The longer Congress waits to implement reforms, the harder the choices will become. So let's talk about this a little bit. What does he say? Reduced purchasing power and shortage of basic goods, such as baby formula, have caused consumer confidence to hit record lows. Those looking to Washington for real solutions will be left wanting. Both the Biden administration and congressional Democrats are promoting tired failed policies. More federal micromanagement, red tape, handouts to political allies, and the threats of job-killing tax hikes. So we shouldn't have any tax hikes, by the way, going back to what I said earlier, because of the spending. If you think it's important to build better, stronger men for society, we would truly appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button right now and help us build better, stronger men. When it comes to inflation, the direction elected officials take regarding federal spending is vitally important, right? Overspending has become a major factor behind inflation. So the staggering price of new debt, total outstanding debt in trillions of dollars, and this is pretty amazing. So it took 215 years, this article says. Where's this by? The U.S. Department of the Treasury, dailysignal.com, heritage.org. The staggering pace of new debt, total outstanding debt in trillions of dollars. And again, how does this affect you? Why is this important? Because it affects your purchasing power. It took 215 years for total U.S. debt to reach 7 trillion. You can see it on that chart. The U.S. has added 7 trillion since March 2020. Now that's pretty amazing, isn't it? See, this is ridiculous. And we need to have discussions about this. And you, the people, need to talk about it. Talk to your congressman about it. Bring it up constantly. Because this needs to get back on the table. Limited government and less spending. To put that in perspective, he goes on to say the federal debt reached a total of 7 trillion in 2004, covering a span from George Washington, here we are back to Washington, to the first term of George W. Bush. Imagine that. That means the federal government has racked up 215 years worth of debt in just 27 months, and this was written earlier. We just spent another 1.7 trillion in December since this. Both about 18 Republican senators signed on to that. While some amount of deficit spending might have been hard to avoid anyway, he goes on, Washington broke out the credit card to continue an unnecessary and wasteful spending spree, oversaturating the economy and making inflation problems inevitable. And we warned about it, this inflation. We talked about it in the groups. Public debt, he goes on, here's a chart of public debt at World War II levels. Percentage of GDP, they're predicting by 2052 it's going to be 185%. So that's not good either. So he talks about relative debt to the size of the economy. And he shows the chart going in the wrong direction, he says. He says the federal government only reached this amount of debt once, which was following what? World War II and the Great Depression. So pretty bad, right? And again, this all affects you and your family. It's important. It's important for you as a citizen to know history, to know George Washington, know the founders, and know all this information. Study politics, economics, and know this information so you can protect what? Your freedom. Here's 3 layers of massive debt chart. Current national debt, unfunded obligations, 73 trillion, Social Security, 20.4 trillion, Medicare, 52.6 trillion. There's the government getting involved in healthcare. The size of annual deficits and total accumulated debt is already astronomical. Unfortunately, he says, those massive amounts pale in comparison to the unfunded liabilities facing Social Security and Medicare. Spending on both programs has been growing faster than the economy for decades, and it is expected to continue to grow indefinitely, making them what? Unsustainable, he'll say. And then he talks about outlays as a percentage of federal budget. He says Congress has made it easier for members to ignore the mounting problem of unfunded benefit programs by making them mandatory, meaning the spending occurs every year regardless of whether legislators pass bills or even bother with budgets. And that chart shows that. Non-defense, he goes on with the chart saying, consumes more GDP. So the non-defense goes like that. Defense goes like that. Oh, so he goes on to say, despite this stark reality, some members of Congress think we need to move even further in this direction. For example, 2 House Democrats have introduced the People Over Pentagon Act to reduce spending on national defense by $100 billion. But he goes on to say that's no longer the dominant aspect of federal spending. True. Talks about federal health spending. The largest federal spending category is health care. The resources dedicated to Medicare, Medicaid, and Obamacare subsidies are more of a driving force behind long-term budget imbalances. So again, the federal government got involved in healthcare, and they've done a very poor job. And they're not constitutionally able to do that. Obamacare should have never happened. It was unconstitutional. So why did we go over all those charts? For your freedom. You need to know history, know George Washington, know the speech, know as much as you can to protect your freedom and your family's freedom. And spending hurts your freedoms. So if you're an ambitious person who wants to go at it and go get it, you don't want the federal government being over involved in your life and doing unconstitutional things and spending beyond their means and your means. So what can you do? Look at who you're voting for. Look at who you're sending to Congress, because that's very important, the way they spend money. If you don't want to just send somebody else to call it Congress, you can run yourself or run for a small local office. We need to send people that understand they're servants to you, that they're servant leaders. Madison and the states ratified a constitution that made the House of Representatives elected every 2 years to be able to respond to you and the will of the people. Last December didn't help that because of what they spent right before it was time for the new House of Representatives to go in. So send people to Congress that care about you and care about debt, care about the deficits, care about limited government, care about the Constitution, that know they're servants of you, the people. You can do that today and stand for freedom by learning about your representatives in politics. Ask them what they're going to do about the debt, or how they're going to try to solve the debt problem, how they will follow the Constitution, a constitution ratified for a limited government where the states retain most of the powers. And that way you can protect your freedom by controlling the spending and restoring the Constitution and restoring limited government. This way you can do your part for America and your family and yourself, and help bring freedom to the next generation. Building better, stronger men, deeper male friendships. Thank you. If you like these videos, please like, comment, and hit the notification button.